My name is Sarah, I'm 38, and I watched my husband and my cousin on a security monitor just moments before I broadcast their affair to his entire company. Before I tell you how that single click changed everything, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. The room was cold. Not the kind of cold that a sweater could fix, but a deep, biting cold that came from the humming server racks that lined the walls. It smelled sterile, like clean metal and ozone. On the desk in front of me, a bank of monitors glowed, each showing a different, silent view of the hotel's grand ballroom. In one, I could see the stage, bathed in blue light, where my husband's boss was speaking. In another, I saw the tables filled with people in elegant dresses and sharp suits, all listening intently. But my eyes were locked on one small screen in the corner. It showed the feed from my husband Ethan's new office. His corner office, the one he was so proud of. The one he was supposed to be in for only a moment to grab a file before the main event. And he was there. So was my cousin, Tiffany. They weren't looking for a file. My heart wasn't pounding. It wasn't racing. It was just a slow, heavy thud in my chest, like a drum beating out a funeral march. My hand was steady on the mouse, my finger resting lightly on the left button. Through the small speaker on the desk, I could hear the master of ceremonies downstairs. And now, a few words from our newly promoted director of marketing, a man whose dedication is an inspiration to us all. Ethan Miller. A smattering of applause echoed faintly. My finger twitched. One click. That's all it would take. One click to turn their secret world inside out. But to understand why I was in that cold, dark room, with the fate of two people I once loved resting under my fingertip, you have to go back. Back a few months, to a time when my world was warm, and safe, and full. It started, as these things often do, with a knock on the door on a rainy Tuesday. Our house was filled with the smell of baking bread and the sound of my daughter, Lily, humming as she did her homework at the kitchen table. It was a perfect, ordinary afternoon. I opened the door, and there she was. Tiffany. My cousin. Her mascara was running inky rivers down her cheeks, her hair plastered to her forehead by the rain. She was shivering, clutching a single, worn-out suitcase. Sarah, she sobbed, collapsing into my arms. I have nowhere else to go. He kicked me out. I lost my job. I have nothing. My mom had always said, family is family. You take care of your own. And looking at Tiffany, so broken and lost, how could I say no? I brought her inside, made her a cup of tea, and told her she could stay in our guest room for as long as she needed. Ethan was supportive, of course. He was always the good guy. We have to help her, honey, he'd said, putting his arm around me. It's the right thing to do. And so, we let the fox into the henhouse. We welcomed her with open arms, never once suspecting the devastation she was about to bring. I gave her a key to my home, never realizing she would use it to try and steal my entire life. The first few weeks were fine. A little awkward, maybe. Tiffany was a ghost in our house, quiet and grateful. She helped with the dishes, played with Lily, and spent hours in her room, supposedly looking for jobs online. I felt sorry for her. I really did. I'd pack her lunches and lend her my clothes for interviews. I was trying to be a good cousin, a good person. The first crack in the illusion was small. So small I almost dismissed it. It was about a pair of shoes. Not just any shoes. They were a pair of vibrant red heels Ethan had bought me for our 5th anniversary. They were expensive, elegant, and they held a special meaning. They were our special occasion shoes. I kept them pristine in their box on the top shelf of my closet. One Thursday evening, I was getting ready for a dinner date with Ethan. Lily was at a sleepover, and it was supposed to be our night. I went to get the red shoes, but the box felt light. I opened it. It was empty. A strange, cold feeling washed over me. I searched the closet, then under the bed. Nothing. I went downstairs, my heart starting to beat a little faster. And that's when I saw her. Tiffany was in the living room, practicing her walk in front of the hallway mirror. She was wearing my shoes. My red shoes. They looked different on her. On me, they felt like a statement of confidence. On her, they looked like a costume. Like a little girl playing dress-up in her mother's closet. "Tiffany?" My voice was quiet, but it cut through the silence. She froze, her eyes wide in the mirror. She turned around slowly, a fake, wobbly smile on her face. "Oh, Sarah. I was just trying them on. They're so beautiful. You have such amazing taste." "Those are my shoes," I said, my voice still quiet but firm. "They're very special to me." I know, she said, quickly slipping them off. "I'm so sorry. It's just, I have that big interview tomorrow, and I don't have anything nice to wear. I thought, maybe, since we're family." The way she said the word family made my skin crawl. It wasn't a term of endearment, it was a weapon. A tool she used to excuse her behavior. "They don't fit you right, Tiffany," I said, taking them from her. "And they're not for interviews. Please don't go into my closet without asking again." Her face crumpled. The crocodile tears started welling up. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I didn't mean any harm. I just feel so useless, so poor compared to you. I just wanted to feel pretty for a minute." Later that night, I told Ethan what happened. I expected him to be on my side, to understand why it upset me. Instead, he sighed, a long, weary sound, as if I were the one causing the problem. "Honey, come on," he said, not looking up from his laptop. "She's going through a tough time. They're just shoes." "They're not just shoes, Ethan. They were a gift from you. From our anniversary. And you're not going to let her borrow them for one interview? She's trying to get back on her feet. Don't you think you're being a little sensitive?" Sensitive. The word hung in the air between us, ugly and sharp. He wasn't just dismissing my feelings, he was invalidating them. He was choosing her manufactured vulnerability over my genuine hurt. I looked at my husband, the man I had built my life with, and for the first time, I felt a tiny, cold sliver of distance between us. I was standing in my own home, but suddenly, I felt like an outsider. A few weeks later was Ethan's company's annual gala. It was a big deal, a chance for him to network for his promotion. I'd bought a new dress, a simple but elegant navy blue one. As I was getting ready, Tiffany hovered in the doorway of our bedroom. "You look beautiful, Sarah," she said, her voice dripping with a sweetness that felt off. "Ethan is a lucky man." I just smiled and thanked her, an uncomfortable feeling prickling at the back of my neck. The event was held at a lavish downtown hotel. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and the sound of clinking champagne glasses. Ethan was in his element, moving through the crowd with an easy confidence, shaking hands, laughing. I was right by his side, playing the part of the supportive wife. And then I saw her. Victoria Lane. Victoria was Ethan's colleague and, years ago, before me, his girlfriend. Their breakup had been messy. She was ambitious, sharp, and had a way of looking at you that made you feel she knew all your secrets. She walked over to us, a shark in a silk dress. "Ethan," she said, her voice smooth as glass. "And Sarah. That dress is a choice." I felt a flush of heat rise up my neck. Ethan immediately jumped in, putting his arm around my waist possessively. "Victoria. Sarah looks incredible, as always. She's the one who keeps me grounded." He then launched into a practice speech about how I was his rock, how I'd sacrificed my own career so he could chase his, how I was the foundation of his success. It was a beautiful speech. The kind of thing every wife wants to hear. But coming from him, right then, in front of Victoria, it felt like a performance. A way to score points. Victoria just smiled, a thin, knowing smile. How noble of you both. She turned her attention back to Ethan. Don't forget our flight to the Chicago conference is at 7 a.m. on Monday. We've got a lot to prepare. My smile faltered. Chicago? You're going to Chicago on Monday? Ethan looked at me, a flicker of something, annoyance? Guilt, in his eyes before it was gone. Oh, did I not mention that? It came up last minute. Just a quick 2-day trip. Really boring stuff. Victoria's smile widened. She leaned in closer to me, as if sharing a secret. We always have the most productive time on these work trips, she murmured, her eyes glinting. Later, as Ethan was off talking to his boss, Victoria found me near the bar. I expected another backhanded compliment, but her expression had changed. It was serious. Look, she said, her voice low. I'm not your friend. But I was you, once. The woman he paraded around while he was busy building his own empire. I didn't know what to say. He's a great actor, she continued, swirling the wine in her glass. He knows how to say all the right things to make you feel like the center of his universe. But Ethan's universe only has one star, and it's him. She took a sip of her wine. I'm just saying, don't just listen to what he says. Watch what he does. Be careful. She walked away, leaving me standing there with a cold drink in my hand and an even colder feeling in my stomach. A warning from a rival should have felt like a cheap shot. But it didn't. It felt like a prophecy. The weeks that followed were a slow, agonizing descent into doubt. Ethan was more distant than ever, glued to his phone, often coming home late with vague excuses. Tiffany was still in our house, a constant, cloying presence. My home had stopped feeling like a sanctuary. It felt like a waiting room. To escape this suffocating atmosphere, I decided to go back to work. Just part-time. Before I married Ethan, I'd been in high-end sales, and I was good at it. I missed the feeling of accomplishment, of having something that was just mine. I took a job at a luxury car dealership downtown. It felt good to put on a professional suit, to talk to people, to close a deal. It was a small piece of my old self I was reclaiming. One afternoon, a man walked into the showroom. He was dressed in simple jeans and a plain gray t-shirt, looking more like he was lost than like he was shopping for a 6-figure car. The other salespeople, polished and hungry for a big commission, took one look at him and dismissed him, turning back to their phones. But my mom always taught me to never judge a book by its cover. I walked over with a warm smile. Hi, welcome. Is there anything I can help you with today? He seemed surprised to be spoken to. Oh. I was just looking. Well, looking is free, I said with a laugh. My name is Sarah. If you have any questions at all, let me know. We ended up talking for almost an hour. Not just about cars, but about business, about the city, about what makes a customer feel valued. He was sharp, insightful, and had a quiet intensity about him. His name was Ryan. He pointed to the top-of-the-line sports coupe in the center of the showroom. Tell me about that one. I gave him the full rundown. When I finished, he just nodded. I'll take it. The other salespeople's heads snapped up. I tried to keep my professional composure. That's wonderful. Would you like to discuss financing options? No need, he said calmly. I'll pay in full. Just draw up the papers. As I was filling out the contract, my manager, a slick guy named Todd, rushed over, suddenly all smiles and attention. Sir. An excellent choice. Todd here, the general manager. I'll take it from here and make sure you get our best service. Ryan didn't even look at him. His eyes stayed on me. No. I want her to handle it. Her name is the only one I want on my commission sheet. Todd's face fell. I finished the paperwork, my hands shaking slightly. It was the biggest sale the dealership had seen all year. As Ryan was signing the final document, he paused. "You're wasted here, Sarah," he said, his gaze direct. "I'm sorry?" "You're smart. You're perceptive. You know how to treat people. But this place, they don't see it. They just see a part-timer." He slid a business card across the desk. It was simple, elegant, with just a name and a number. Ryan Evans, CEO, Evans Automotive Group. They were our biggest competitor. "I'm opening a new flagship store in 2 months," he said. "I need a sales director. Someone who can build a team that understands what real customer service is. The job is yours if you want it." I was stunned. I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything now," he said, standing up and pocketing his new car keys. "Think about it. Some people are meant to be in the passenger seat. You, Sarah, you're meant to drive." He walked out of the showroom, leaving me with a signed contract, a massive commission, and a business card that felt like a lifeline. That night, for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. A feeling that maybe, just maybe, there was a road out of the fog I was living in. While I was rediscovering a part of myself at work, Tiffany was busy sinking her fangs deeper into my life. She finally got a job. An unpaid internship, she called it. At Ethan's company. "Isn't it perfect?" she'd gushed over dinner, her eyes shining. "Ethan was so sweet to pull some strings for me. Now I can learn from the best." Ethan had just shrugged when I gave him a questioning look. "It's just an internship, Sarah. It's in a different department. I'll barely see her. It's a way to get her on her feet so she can finally move out." It sounded reasonable. But it felt all wrong. A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. I barely saw her, my foot. Suddenly, my life was filled with stories about the office. Tiffany would tell me about her day, always managing to drop Ethan's name into the conversation. "Ethan gave me this great advice on the marketing proposal today. Ethan and I had to work late on the quarterly report, he's such a genius. Ethan bought me a coffee this morning because I looked tired." She was an expert at painting a picture of innocent mentorship, of a boss looking out for his struggling intern. But I knew what she was doing. She was weaving a web right in front of my eyes. She was creating a shared world with him, a world that I wasn't a part of. The late nights became more frequent. Ethan would come home smelling faintly of a perfume that wasn't mine. It was a cheap, sweet scent, the kind Tiffany wore. When I mentioned it, he'd get defensive. "Oh, my God, Sarah, we were in a conference room all day. People wear perfume. You're imagining things." He started to gaslight me, making me feel like I was the crazy one. My questions were dismissed as jealousy. My concerns were brushed off as insecurity. "You should be happy for her," he told me one night when I said it made me uncomfortable that they were spending so much time together. "She finally has something going for her. Why can't you just be supportive?" Supportive? I was the one who opened my home to her. I was the one who listened to her sob stories and gave her a shoulder to cry on. And now I was being painted as the unsupportive, jealous wife. The worst part was the phone. His phone, which had always been a benign object in our house, became a fortress. It was always with him, always screen down. One evening, he was in the shower and a text message lit up the screen. I know I shouldn't have, but I glanced at it. It was from Tiffany. "Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about it, winky face." The winky face felt like a slap. I just stood there, staring at the glowing screen, the sound of the shower water roaring in my ears. It was happening. It wasn't in my head. It was real. I confronted him when he came out of the bathroom, a towel around his waist. I held up the phone. What was so amazing about last night, Ethan? He looked at the phone, then at me. There was no panic in his eyes. Just cold, calculated annoyance. He took the phone from my hand. We landed a huge new client. The whole team was celebrating. Tiffany was just excited. He deleted the message right in front of me. You really need to stop snooping, Sarah. It's not a good look. He walked away, leaving me standing in the steam-filled bathroom, my heart turning to a block of ice. He didn't just lie. He did it so easily, so calmly. He made me feel ashamed for catching him. At that moment, I realized I wasn't just fighting for my marriage. I was fighting an enemy who had taken over my husband's mind. Our 10th wedding anniversary was on a Friday. For months, I had been looking forward to it. It felt like a chance to reset, to find our way back to each other. I made a reservation at the fancy Italian restaurant where he had proposed. I bought a new dress. I even arranged for my mom to take Lily for the night so we could have the house to ourselves. I was trying. God, I was trying so hard. On Friday morning, I reminded him. Don't forget, 8 p.m. at Giovanni's. Our table. Wouldn't miss it for the world, he said, kissing me on the cheek before he left for work. The kiss felt automatic. Perfunctory. All day, a sense of nervous hope fluttered in my chest. Maybe this was what we needed. A night to remember who we were before Tiffany, before the secrets and the distance. At 7 p.m., I was dressed and ready, the house quiet and clean. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Ethan. So sorry, honey. Huge emergency at work. A client presentation got moved up. I have to stay late. We'll have to postpone. I'll make it up to you, I promise. I just stared at the message. The words swam in front of my eyes. An emergency. Of course. It was always an emergency. I sank down onto the edge of our bed, the beautiful dress feeling like a costume for a play that had just been cancelled. I didn't cry. I just felt empty. A hollowed-out feeling that was becoming frighteningly familiar. I called the restaurant to cancel. I took off the dress and put on my old, comfortable sweatpants. I sat on the couch in the dark, watching the clock tick past 8, then 9, then 10. Around 11, I heard a car in the driveway. But it wasn't just one car door that closed. It was two. I peeked through the blinds. Ethan was helping Tiffany out of his car. She was laughing, leaning on him a little too heavily. So this was his emergency. I moved away from the window before they could see me. My mind was racing. I couldn't face them. Not like this. I ran upstairs and got into bed, turning my back to the door and pretending to be asleep. I heard them come in, their voices low whispers in the foyer. I heard Tiffany's light footsteps go towards the guest room. Then I heard Ethan come up the stairs. He crept into our room, trying to be quiet. He undressed in the dark. I could smell it then. Wine. And that same cheap, sweet perfume. He slid into bed behind me. Sarah, he whispered. You awake? I didn't answer. I just lay there, rigid, my eyes squeezed shut. He sighed and rolled away. The next morning, I got up before him. I needed to get out of that house. I told him I was taking Lily to my mom's for the day. When I came back that evening, the house was quiet. I found him in his study, sitting at his desk. He had tried to do damage control. There were flowers on the table and a note that said, I'm so sorry. Let me make it up to you. But as I stood in the doorway, I noticed something on the floor, next to his desk chair. A single, long, blonde hair. My hair is brown. Tiffany's is blonde. And then I saw the stain on the plush cream-colored carpet. A dark, lipstick red stain, shaped unmistakably like a kiss. He had brought her into our home. Into his study. On our anniversary. He looked up at me, a pathetic, hopeful smile on his face. "Hey, you're back." I didn't say anything. I just pointed at the floor. His eyes followed my finger. The smile vanished from his face. He scrambled, his mind working fast for a lie. "Oh, that. It's ink." I dropped a red pen. It exploded everywhere. What a mess. He grabbed a book and strategically dropped it over the stain. I was going to clean it up. An ink stain. That was his explanation. It was so insulting, so brazenly false, that all the air went out of my lungs. I looked at the man I had loved for over a decade, the father of my child, and I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness. Just a profound, chilling emptiness. The love had been killed, and a lie was now standing in its place. When I saw that lie in his eyes, knowing what he had done in our home, my world just fell apart. It wasn't just about the affair, it was the blatant lie right to my face. I wonder if anyone has ever felt that specific kind of cold betrayal? If you're listening and you know this feeling, please leave a 1 in the comments. I really need to know I'm not alone in this. For a few days, I was a ghost. I moved through my life on autopilot. I made Lily's breakfast, I went to work, I smiled at customers, but inside, I was gone. The conversation with Ethan replayed in my head on a loop. It's ink. The sheer audacity of it. He thought I was that stupid. That weak. One night, after putting Lily to bed, I sat in my car in the driveway for an hour, the engine off. I couldn't go back inside that house. It didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like a crime scene. I thought about leaving. Just packing a bag for me and Lily and disappearing. But where would we go? And why should I be the one to run? This was my home. He was the one who had defiled it. A cold, hard clarity began to form in the fog of my grief. Crying wasn't going to fix this. Leaving wasn't enough. He wasn't just going to get away with it. He and Tiffany weren't just going to build a new life on the ruins of mine. I thought of Victoria Lane's warning. Don't just listen to what he says. Watch what he does. And I thought of her other words, the ones that had seemed strange at the time. He's a great actor. An actor needs a stage. An audience. I picked up my phone. My hands were trembling, but my resolve was firm. I scrolled through my contacts until I found her name. Victoria Lane. I hesitated for only a second before I hit call. She answered on the second ring, her voice crisp and professional. Victoria Lane. Victoria, it's Sarah. Sarah Miller. There was a pause. Sarah. I'm surprised to hear from you. I need your help, I said, the words tumbling out before I could lose my nerve. You were right about Ethan. You were right about everything. And I'm not going to let him get away with it. There was another silence on the line, but this one was different. It was thoughtful. What kind of help are you talking about? She asked, her voice losing its corporate edge and becoming something softer. More curious. I told her everything. The late nights, the perfume, the text message, the anniversary, the ink stain. I laid it all out, the ugly, painful truth. I wasn't talking to a rival anymore. I was talking to the only other person on earth who truly understood the man I was married to. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. I knew he was a snake, she finally said, her voice laced with a grim satisfaction. But I didn't know he was a rat, too. Defiling his own home. She took a deep breath. Okay, Sarah. I'm in. What's the plan? I don't have one yet, I admitted. I just know I need to expose him. I need people to see him for who he really is, not the perfect family man he pretends to be. To do that, you need proof. Irrefutable proof, Victoria said, her mind clearly already working. And I think I know how to get it. She paused. Ethan has an enemy in the IT department. A kid named Mark. He's brilliant, but Ethan stole credit for a huge software project Mark developed last year. The kid has been bitter ever since. He owes Ethan nothing and would probably love a chance to see him go down. What can he do? I asked, a flicker of real hope igniting inside me. Mark has access to everything, Victoria said, and I could almost hear the smile in her voice. The entire company's digital infrastructure, including the security camera feeds. My breath caught in my throat. Meet me for coffee tomorrow morning, Victoria said. 8 a.m. The little cafe on Elm Street. I'll arrange for Mark to be there. It's time to go to war, Sarah. I hung up the phone, a new, unfamiliar feeling coursing through me. The emptiness was gone. In its place was a cold, sharp, and powerful sense of purpose. The game had changed. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the architect of his downfall. The next morning, I walked into that little cafe on Elm Street feeling like a different woman. I had barely slept, but I wasn't tired. I was energized, focused. Victoria was already there, sitting at a corner table. With her was a young man who looked like he couldn't be a day over 25. He had pale skin, glasses, and a nervous energy about him. This had to be Mark. Sarah, this is Mark. Mark, Sarah, Victoria said, making the introductions. Mark just nodded, avoiding my eyes and fidgeting with a sugar packet. I sat down and got straight to the point. Victoria told me you might be able to help me. Mark glanced at Victoria, who gave him a reassuring nod. He finally looked at me. She said Ethan Miller is your husband. It wasn't a question. He presented my work as his own at the last national conference. Got a huge bonus for it. I got a thanks for your support email. The bitterness in his voice was raw. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. He has a habit of taking what isn't his. Victoria said you need access to the camera feed in his office, Mark said, his voice dropping to a whisper. Is it possible? I asked, my heart starting to pound. He gave a short, humorless laugh. For me? It's easy. I designed the system. Ethan wanted a camera installed last month. For security reasons, he said. He wanted to be able to monitor his office from his phone. The irony was so thick it was almost suffocating. I can give you a secure link, Mark continued, pulling out a small tablet. It will bypass the main server logs. No one will know you're watching except me. You'll be able to see and hear everything. He typed for a moment and then turned the tablet towards me. There it was. Ethan's office. Empty. The big desk, the leather chair, the view of the city I had heard so much about. It felt like a violation to be looking at it, but I pushed the feeling down. He had violated our marriage. This was justice. Thank you, Mark, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I won't forget this. Just make it good, he said, a grim smile on his face. Make him pay. A week later, I officially accepted Ryan Evans' job offer. Walking into my new office felt like breathing fresh air for the first time in years. Ryan was an incredible boss, supportive, respectful, and he treated me like a professional, not just a wife or a mother. To celebrate my new job, he insisted on taking me out for a proper business lunch. We went to a nice restaurant downtown, the kind of place where deals were made. We were seated at a table by the window, and for the first time in a long time, I felt normal. I was talking about sales projections and marketing strategies. I was laughing. And then I saw them. Across the street, walking out of a jewelry store, were Ethan and Tiffany. He had his arm around her, and she was looking up at him with that adoring, fake smile. He leaned down and kissed her, a long, lingering kiss right there on the public sidewalk. A wave of nausea washed over me. Ryan must have seen the color drain from my face. "Sarah? Are you okay?" I couldn't speak. I just pointed. He followed my gaze. His body went rigid. His friendly, smiling face hardened into a mask of disbelief and anger. "No way," he whispered, his voice low and dangerous. "Tiffany Davis." I turned to look at him, confused. "You know her?" He tore his eyes away from the scene across the street and looked at me, his expression full of a dawning, horrified understanding. "Know her?" "Sarah, she's my ex-girlfriend. From about 5 years ago. She maxed out my credit cards and disappeared one day. Took almost $10,000. I never saw her again." We just sat there in silence, watching my husband and his lying, cheating ex-girlfriend get into a taxi together. That was it. That was the moment everything snapped into focus. This wasn't just a simple, sordid affair. It was a pattern. They were two of a kind, takers, users, destroyers. And they had picked the wrong person to mess with. Seeing them together, knowing the depth of their deceit, that was it. There was no turning back. If you're still listening, please comment continue. Your support is what's getting me through telling this next part of the story. That night, something inside me shifted permanently. The grief, the sadness, the hurt, it was all still there, but it had been burned down into a hard, dense core of pure resolve. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a woman on a mission. The first thing I did when I got home was walk into my closet. I reached up to the top shelf and pulled down the box with the red shoes. I didn't even open it. I walked it straight out to the trash can in the garage and dropped it in. It made a hollow, final sound as it landed. That part of my life was over. The woman who cherished those shoes, who believed in the fairy tale they represented, she was gone. The next morning, I booked an appointment at the best hair salon in the city. For 10 years, I'd had the same long, safe, brown hair. The kind of hair a reliable wife and mother has. I sat in the chair and told the stylist, "Cut it off." She looked at me, her eyes wide. "All of it?" "Cut it," I said again, my voice leaving no room for argument. For the next hour, I watched my old self fall to the floor in soft brown heaps. When she was done, a new woman looked back at me from the mirror. My hair was now a sharp, chin-length bob that made my eyes look bigger and my jawline look stronger. I didn't just look different. I felt different. I felt dangerous. My wardrobe was next. I packed up all the soft, floral dresses and sensible cardigans I had accumulated over the years. I took the commission check from Ryan's car sale, the one I had been saving for Lily's college fund, and I went shopping. I didn't buy what a suburban mom would wear. I bought what a boss would wear. Sharp blazers, silk blouses, tailored trousers, and a pair of killer black heels that made me feel powerful with every step. This wasn't just about looking different. It was about arming myself. I was creating a new armor, a new identity for the battle that was to come. I also made another appointment. With the best divorce lawyer in the city. I sat in her plush office and laid out the facts calmly and clinically. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I presented my case like a business proposal. She listened intently, and when I was done, she gave me a sharp, approving nod. "You've got a solid case for infidelity, which will help with the settlement," she said. "But he'll fight you on custody of your daughter. Men like him always do. They use the kids as pawns. You need irrefutable proof of his character, something that makes it impossible for a judge to see him as a stable parent." I'm working on it, I said, a cold smile touching my lips for the first time in months. I'm working on it. The change in me was not lost on Ethan. He noticed the hair, the clothes, the new confidence. It made him nervous. He tried to turn on the charm, bringing me flowers, suggesting date nights. He was trying to pull me back into the box he had created for me. But the box was broken. And I was already out. I played along, for now. I smiled, I accepted the flowers, I made excuses for the date nights. I was biding my time, watching the camera feed from his office every day, waiting. Waiting for the perfect moment to burn his whole world to the ground. The perfect moment arrived in an email. It was the official invitation to the annual Sterling Corp Gala, the same event where Victoria had warned me just months before. This year, the highlight of the evening was to be the presentation of the Employee of the Year award. The recipient, the email proudly announced, was the new Director of Marketing, Ethan Miller. It was almost poetic. They were going to honor him, to put him up on a pedestal as a shining example of the company's values. I smiled. I couldn't have written a better script myself. As a key partner, my new company, Evans Automotive, had a corporate table right at the front. Ryan told me I didn't have to go. I can send someone else, Sarah. You don't need to put yourself through that. Oh, I'm going, I said, my voice calm. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I called Mark. It's time, I said. The night of the gala. Are you ready? I was born ready, he replied, the excitement clear in his voice. The ballroom's A/V system is patched directly into our network. I can route any feed to the main projector. All I need is your signal. The night of the gala, I took my time getting ready. I chose a dress that was the color of blood. A sleek, stunning, floor-length gown that was both elegant and deadly. With my new short hair and dark lipstick, I was unrecognizable. I was a declaration of war in a dress. Ryan was my date. He looked at me when I came down the stairs, his eyes wide. Wow, Sarah. You look breathtaking. It's my armor, I said with a small smile. We walked into that ballroom, and heads turned. People were whispering, wondering who the woman on Ryan Evans' arm was. I saw Ethan standing with Tiffany near the bar. His jaw literally dropped when he saw me. He looked me up and down, a mixture of shock, confusion, and a flicker of something else, desire. Tiffany just glared, her eyes full of venom. I ignored them. I let Ryan lead me to our table, smiling and greeting people as if I didn't have a care in the world. The evening dragged on. Speeches were made. Awards were given. I ate my dinner, my heart a steady, calm rhythm in my chest. I felt Ryan's hand rest on mine under the table, a silent gesture of support. Finally, the moment came. Ethan's boss, Mr. Harrison, walked up to the podium. And now, he boomed, his voice full of pride, it is my great honor to present our highest award, Employee of the Year, to a man who embodies integrity, loyalty, and a commitment to excellence. Please join me in congratulating our Director of Marketing, Ethan Miller. The spotlight swung to our table. Ethan stood up, beaming. He buttoned his jacket, smoothed his tie, and gave me a smug little wink, as if to say, see? I'm still the man. He started walking towards the stage, the applause thundering around him. I reached into my clutch and pulled out my phone. Under the table, I sent a single text message to Mark. Now. As Ethan took his first step onto the stage, the giant screen behind the podium, which had been showing the corporate logo, flickered. Then it went black. The applause faltered. People started murmuring. And then, a new image appeared on the screen. It was a live feed. Crystal clear. It was Ethan's office. And there, on the large mahogany desk, were Ethan and Tiffany. They were in a passionate embrace, their clothes in disarray. It was happening right then, in real time. They had snuck away from the party for a quick, sordid rendezvous, thinking they were safe. A collective gasp went through the ballroom. The silence that followed was absolute. People stared, their mouths hanging open. Mr. Harrison froze, his face turning from pride to horrified disbelief. On the stage, Ethan had stopped walking. He heard the silence and turned around to see what was wrong. He looked up at the giant screen. He saw himself. He saw Tiffany. He saw his entire life, his career, his carefully constructed image, all exploding in front of 200 of his colleagues. The color drained from his face. He looked like a man who had just been shot. From our table, I just watched. I took a slow, deliberate sip of my wine. Checkmate. The silence in the ballroom lasted for what felt like an eternity. It was broken by a single, nervous cough, which was followed by a wave of frantic whispering. Then, someone laughed. A sharp, cruel bark of a laugh. And that opened the floodgates. The room erupted in a cacophony of murmurs, shocked laughter, and the sound of people pulling out their phones to record the spectacle. On the screen, the two performers in their sordid play finally realized something was terribly wrong. The Ethan on the screen looked up, his eyes wide with a dawning, animalistic terror. The Tiffany on the screen shrieked and tried to cover herself. It was too late. Everyone had seen everything. The Ethan on the stage was frozen, a statue of public humiliation. Mr. Harrison, his face a furious shade of purple, finally snapped out of his shock. He barked an order into his microphone, "Shut it off. Shut it off now." But his voice was drowned out by the chaos. Mark was a genius. The feed didn't just shut off. It froze on the most incriminating frame, a perfect still image of their shame, before finally going black. Ethan stumbled backwards off the stage, his face ashen. He scanned the crowd, his wild eyes searching for an explanation, an escape. And then his eyes found mine. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just held his gaze, my expression perfectly neutral. I let him see that I knew. That I was the one who had done this. In that single, silent moment, he understood everything. The truth hit him with the force of a physical blow. He staggered, looking like he was about to be sick. Ryan stood up. "I think we're done here," he said calmly, his hand on my back. He guided me through the stunned crowd. No one tried to stop us. They just parted, their eyes full of a mixture of pity and awe. As we walked out of the ballroom, I didn't look back. The life I'd had with Ethan was a building that had just been publicly demolished. All that was left was to sort through the rubble. The next morning, my phone was blowing up with messages and missed calls. But I didn't answer. I just focused on making Lily's favorite pancake breakfast. Around noon, my lawyer called. "Well," she said, and I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. That was certainly effective. "I just got a call from Ethan's new lawyer. He's ready to cooperate. On everything. The house, the divorce settlement, full custody for you with supervised visitation for him. He's not going to fight. He just wants this to go away." It was over. Just like that. But the real fallout was just beginning. Ethan and Tiffany were, of course, fired immediately. Their public disgrace was the talk of the corporate world. No one would touch them. Their careers were over. A few days later, a broken-sounding Ethan left me a voicemail. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He just sounded defeated. "Sarah. I don't know what to say. I know I deserved it. I'm sorry. I've lost everything." I deleted the message without a second thought. His apology was 10 years too late and $1 million short. That was the moment I finally broke free. "Thank you for staying with me." Please like this video and comment too below to let me know you were here for this turning point. Your support means the world and helps others find the strength in this story. I thought that after the gala, after they were fired, they would just crawl away and disappear. I was wrong. I had underestimated Tiffany's capacity for venom when she was cornered. She had lost her meal ticket in Ethan, and she was desperate. She decided that if she was going down, she was going to try and drag me down with her. Her new battlefield was my daughter's elementary school. It started with a call from Lily's teacher, Ms. Gable. Her voice was hesitant, uncomfortable. Mrs. Miller, Sarah. I'm not sure how to say this, but there was a bit of a scene at pickup today. My blood ran cold. A scene? Is Lily okay? Lily is fine, she assured me. She didn't see most of it. It was your cousin, Tiffany. She showed up and started talking to some of the other mothers in the parking lot. I drove to the school the next day with a knot of dread in my stomach. As I waited for the dismissal bell, I could feel it. The stares. The whispers. A group of moms who I usually chatted with suddenly found the pavement incredibly interesting when I approached. One of them, a woman named Karen whose daughter was in Lily's class, finally looked at me, her face a mask of pity. "Sarah, I'm so sorry," she said in a stage whisper. "What that woman is saying about you, it's just awful." "What exactly is she saying, Karen?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. "Well," she leaned in conspiratorially, "she said that you were insanely jealous of her. That you framed her and your husband, who were just friends, because you were insecure. And that you threw her out on the street with nothing, all because you couldn't stand to see your husband being nice to another woman." I felt a hot rage flash through me, so intense it made me dizzy. She was trying to poison my community. To paint me as the villain in my own story, to isolate me in the one place I should have felt safe, among the parents of my child's friends. Just then, the school doors opened, and the kids came pouring out. And I saw her. Tiffany was standing near the gate, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, putting on a heartbreaking performance for a new audience. When she saw me, her eyes widened, and she actually started to walk towards me. Lily ran up to me and hugged my legs, oblivious. I squeezed her hand and told her to go talk to her friend for just a minute. Then I turned to face the viper. Tiffany started before I could even speak, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Sarah! Please! I have nowhere to go. Don't do this. He loved you. How could you be so cruel?" The other parents were now openly staring, their car doors left open, their own kids forgotten for a moment. This was the drama they had been waiting for. I walked straight up to her, stopping just a foot away. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I spoke in a low, clear, and deadly serious tone. "Listen to me very carefully," I said, my eyes locked on hers. "The games are over. The lies are over. This is not a playground for your drama. This is my child's school. These are matters for adults, and you will not bring them here. You will not speak my name, and you will not come near my daughter ever again. If I see you here again, if I even hear a whisper of you being here again, the next conversation you have will be with my lawyer about a restraining order. Do you understand me?" My voice didn't shake. My hands didn't tremble. I was a mother protecting her cub, and there is no force on earth more powerful than that. Tiffany's face, for the first time, showed genuine fear. The fake tears dried up. She saw that I wasn't the weak, sensitive woman she had manipulated for months. She was looking at the woman who had ruined her life with the click of a mouse. She just nodded, speechless. "Good," I said. Then I turned my back on her, took Lily's hand, and walked away without another glance. The whispers of the other moms followed me, but for the first time, I didn't care what they thought. I had protected my daughter. I had drawn my line in the sand. And I had won. The divorce was finalized quickly and quietly. The house was put up for sale, and I used my half of the money to buy a smaller, cozier townhouse for just me and Lily. It was ours. No ghosts, no bad memories. Just a blank slate. Packing up the old house was hard. It was like packing up a life that wasn't mine anymore. Every photo, every piece of furniture held a memory, and I had to decide which ones to keep and which ones to let go of. But with every box I taped shut, I felt a little lighter. During this time, Ryan was my rock. He never pushed, never pried. He was just there. He helped me move boxes. He brought over pizza on nights when I was too exhausted to cook. He played with Lily in the park, making her laugh in a way I hadn't heard in months. He was showing me what a good man looked like, not by telling me, but by being one. One day, Victoria came over to my new place with a bottle of wine and a proposition. "You know," she said, looking around my sparkling new kitchen, "you're an amazing cook. And I'm a marketing genius. And we both have a story to tell." And that's how our new venture was born. We started an online food blog and YouTube channel. We called it Reclaiming Your Table. It wasn't just about recipes. It was about the stories behind the food. It was about how a simple meal can be an act of self-love, of taking back control, of building a new life. I would cook, and we would talk about careers, about motherhood, about resilience, about starting over. To our shock, it took off. Women from all over the country started writing to us, sharing their own stories of betrayal and rebirth. We had created a community. I had spent years supporting Ethan's career, helping him climb the ladder. Now, I was building something of my own, with another woman, and it was more fulfilling than I could have ever imagined. I was finally using my talents for myself. My life started to find a new rhythm. Mornings were for getting Lily to school. Days were for filming, writing, and running the business with Victoria. Evenings were for homework, dinner, and quiet time with my daughter. Ryan was a gentle, steady presence through it all. He never crowded me. He understood that I was healing, that I was learning to trust myself again before I could fully trust anyone else. One evening, after Lily was in bed, we were sitting on my small patio, watching the sunset. "You seem happy, Sarah," he said quietly. "I am," I said, and I was surprised to realize how true it was. It wasn't the loud, frantic happiness I had chased in my old life. It was a quiet, solid contentment that came from within. I feel like myself again. Or maybe, for the first time. He reached over and took my hand. His touch was warm and steady. "I told you that you were meant to drive," he said with a smile. "You just needed to get behind the wheel of your own car." I smiled back, my heart feeling full and safe in a way it hadn't in a very long time. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time, it didn't feel scary. It felt hopeful. It felt like an open road. Life moves on. That's one thing you can always count on. The drama of the past begins to fade, and the quiet routines of the present take over. But there are always loose ends. I heard about Tiffany through the grapevine. After our confrontation at the school, she had disappeared for a while. It turned out she had found another man to latch onto, a wealthy, married real estate developer. It didn't last long. His wife found out and, from what I heard, she was not the type to sit back quietly. There was a very public, very messy scene at a country club. Tiffany was left with nothing once again. A few weeks after that, I got a call from a local hospital. A social worker told me that Tiffany had been in an accident and had listed me as her emergency contact. She had no one else. The social worker asked if I would be willing to cover her medical bills. The old Sarah would have rushed to her side. The old Sarah would have been consumed with guilt and obligation. But I wasn't the old Sarah anymore. "I will pay the bill," I told the social worker. "You can send it to my lawyer. But I will not be visiting." She is not my responsibility anymore. I hung up the phone and I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. My final act of charity was also my final boundary. The other loose end was Ethan. A year after the divorce, he called me. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. His voice sounded different. Thinner. Older. He told me he was moving. He had taken a job overseas, in Singapore. A chance to start over where no one knew his name. I just wanted to call and say goodbye, he said. And to say I'm sorry. For everything. None of it was Tiffany's fault. It was all me. I was weak and arrogant and I broke the best thing in my life. He paused, and I could hear him take a shaky breath. You were a good wife, Sarah. The best. And I threw it all away. Tears pricked my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness for what I had lost. They were tears of release. It was the apology I had deserved a long time ago. I hope you find peace over there, Ethan, I said, and I meant it. Be a good dad to Lily on your calls. That's all I ask. I will, he whispered. Goodbye, Sarah. Goodbye, Ethan. As I hung up the phone, I knew that chapter was truly, finally closed. Walking away from that final phone call, I felt free. We all deserve happiness. We deserve to be cherished. Have you had to fight to reclaim your life? To walk away from someone who didn't see your worth? Comment I deserve it below. Because you do. We all do.